You're watching Safety Planning and Crossing Norwegian North Sea through oil platforms. This is the last episode of our journey with my Grafics 36 from France to Norway. We crossed the Norwegian North Sea, one of the fiercest in the world, from Shetlands to Western Norway. In the middle of the sea, we traversed a large area with numerous oil rigs, before having a very agitated sea in the night and morning, and a lovely sunny reception during the last 4 hours of the trip. This is a video of my series Adventures with my Trawler Yacht Whitehorse, a Grafics 36. Here's a shorter info what you will see. Crossing the North Sea demands a lot of safety planning. I will explain what I did. When sailing from Shetlands to Western Norway, we traveled about 8 hours through a large field of oil and gas platforms. A very special experience. In the following night and early morning, we had to fight against an agitated sea before reaching the sunny safety of a fjord and returning home. On the map you can see that we had to sail the first 5 kilometers through the Sound of Bressay before we reached the open sea. Then the 375-kilometer long crossing of the Norwegian North Sea started. After reaching the coast at Frøysjøen, south of Kalvåg, we sailed through these fjords to reach my homestead Salt near Selje. If you want to cross the Norwegian North Sea, you have to plan carefully and diligently. You will be on the open sea for about 25 to 35 hours, and much can happen in this time. And the North Sea, in this area, is considered as one of the most dangerous and fierce in the world. Already, when being in Helmsdale, I started to follow the weather development along the planned route north to Orkney and then Shetland, and then the crossing over to the Norwegian North Sea. The long-term predictions didn't look good. When leaving Helmsdale on the 2nd of June, the prediction said the weather would be okay until about the 8th of June and then turn windy and wet. This situation didn't change much the following 2 days, but the weather change got more clear for the 7th. Once on Shetland, and knowing that John would join me to cross the ocean, I had to make these plans as exact as possible. For the 5th, good and rather calm ocean was predicted, with significant waves below 50 centimeters for the first half of the journey and up to 1 meter for the second half. There were mainly swell coming from southern direction. The wind on Beaufort scale would be light air to gentle breeze. But there was a catch. South of Sognefjord, there was a fresh to strong breeze blowing from the south along the coast, and north of Ålesund, the same type of wind was blowing from the north. Just the region where we would reach the shores were nearly calm, because the two winds currents neutralized themselves. But the later we would reach Norway, the more the winds from north would blow southwards, and the stronger they would get. As from evening 6th, there were to be expected stronger winds and higher swell from northwest in our target area. I would like to take this occasion to point out that I used OpenSeaMap for the planning of air pressure systems, currents, and wave heights and course planning. More exact wind information was available by using the Windy app, which delivers very good predictions and offers clear and easy to understand graphics. I also consulted other weather information on the internet to get more predictions. Last but not least, there are very good isobar charts available from the Norwegian meteorological site. I discussed the situation and my conclusions with John, and we decided to leave at 2 a.m. at the latest, taking some sleep before that. We expected the trip over the North Sea to take about 25 to 27 hours, so we should be within the protected fjords around 6 a.m., giving us about 8 hours of safety if we were late. In emergency, should the winds from the north come too early, we could choose to sail more south, and with that saving about 2 hours of travel, and avoiding the northern swell, or at least have it more in our back. Did you like my video so far? Then I would be grateful for you subscribing free of charge to my YouTube channel to help me finance my work. Thank you. Going to bed, we saw a Norwegian sailing yacht leave the harbour in Lerwick. They were probably on the same route as we. At 2 a.m. we too started our journey, turning north through the Bessay Sound. It was a demanding sailing, as the night was very black. It was a waxing crescent moon, 5 days old, and it would only rise at 9 a.m. I had to drive with the help of the green and red light marks in the Sound, and it was difficult to find out which were nearer and which further away. We had to rely on our eyes and on the chart plot. After an hour of slow travel, we exceeded into the open sea and set course 60 degrees northeast. The sky was covered with clouds, but the sea was calm with little wind. We could relax and use the time to talk about our plans for the future and our hobbies. After some hours, we passed a freight ship, and I used the occasion to ask whether they could see us on their AIS, which they confirmed. It turned out they were originating from Norway and on the way to England with a load of sand. In the early afternoon, we entered the area of oil and gas platforms. In this region of the North Sea, the depth is only about 300 meters. The sea was very calm, and there were even some blue parts in the sky. It was quite an experience traveling through this area, where so much of the fuel we all use is drilled. The platforms were huge and of many shapes. Some looked like they were just set up for drilling and not having the permanent settlement yet. Between the platforms, large red rescue ships keep watch. Each is responsible for several oil rigs and has a 24/7 service for any emergencies. We kept seeing new platforms for about 8 hours of travel, sometimes nearer, sometimes in the distance. Some were loading goods to supply ships with huge cranes. What did surprise me was that there was a thin layer of oil floating on the surface of the sea, hours on end, as the sea was not in a too agitated condition. Considering how all of us are kept to avoid spilling any oil into the sea, this is a serious breach, which it seems is just tolerated. After dinner, we decided that I would have the watch on the helm until midnight, and then John should take over until 4 a.m. Then it was my turn again, as we would come near the shores of Norway, and I did know the area of approach. While John was sleeping, the waves got higher, perhaps between 50 centimeters and 1 meter. This was still well within the tolerances and did not bother me, but the constant clashing on the hull caused John to get up early around 10 p.m. It was now nearly dark. We decided that I should try to get some sleep, while he would take the responsibility and that he would call me when in need or when he would get tired too. Around midnight I woke up, as the boat was now rolling much stronger, but nothing to be afraid of, so I too rolled over and kept on sleeping. I woke up again around 2 a.m. when the rolling was even more felt. Still, John did not call me, and I decided to sleep until he would call me or the time of my watch was on. When I took over at the helm at 4 a.m., the sky was slowly getting lighter again. John told me that we had passed through quite heavy and large swells from north while I was sleeping, so he had to change course more to the north in order to have the waves not clashing at right angle on the sides of the boat. But slowly the waves were now getting smaller again, and they changed also their direction and came now more from northwest. This allowed to change course to a nearly eastern direction to reach the coast at the pre-planned area. When we finally reached the Norwegian coast around 5 a.m., there was still heavy waves. It had started to rain and some fog was lying over the surface of the sea. There were several very dangerous rocks in this area that hardly would show over the surface, and I knew there were more that didn't show up at all, but lure just below the surface of the sea. As soon as the waves got a bit smaller, because of the islands in the north, I changed course to north. Like this, we would not get nearer to these rocky, deadly traps and grant us more lee of the waves. My goal was to enter the Froy Sea, south of the island with the same name, but still keeping a good distance to the also very dangerous rocks of Trawler, just north of the entrance. It took us about 2 hours to navigate through this dangerous region until we were safe within the Froy Sea. Everything went well, and while we sailed past the southern shores of Froy Island, the weather improved miraculously. We could enjoy this last piece of our journey with sitting outside on the flybridge. John was very busy taking photos of all the beautiful mountains along our way. About 5 hours after we had reached the coast of Norway, we reached my home on the peninsula south near Selje. We were happily greeted by my dear partner and my neighbors. I must confess, I was not only very happy to have reached my goal safely and in good shape, but also quite proud to have mastered the crossing of the feared Norwegian North Sea together with my good friend John Sutton, to whom I will always be thankful. To you, my dear visitors of my YouTube site, I would like to say a big thank you too. It was a pleasure to create all these videos of my travels from France to Norway. My aim was to reach 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 view hours by the time this journal of my journey is over. It looks like I can reach this goal thanks to your support. Having more than 1,000 subscribers and only about 300 watch hours to fill. It was a joy to relive this cruise again while preparing and realizing the episodes. I can recommend this to everyone for your own personal journeys. My own YouTube journey is, however, not over. Not either my journeys with my dear Whitehorse. These journeys have only begun, and you can be with me again on my next adventures along the Norwegian coast. I hope you join again. Thank you.